Hey, what's up? This is Brandon Simmons for BrandonSimmons.biz. This is my weekly video blog called Bullheaded, a review of the Houston Texans news, as well as a preview of the upcoming game matchups. So this week, there is no week. The Texans are on a bye week this week for week 6. And so what I wanted to do was just jump in real quick and kind of give a quick review of how the season is going so far through my own observations. So first, I want to give a quick recap of Week 5, which we finally got our first win. A couple things I want to kind of get my input in on is, well, number one, the O line, the offensive line had their bounce back game in this one. So in the previous week, what I'm saying, against the Chargers, they had penalties all over the place, and not even just with the Chargers. It was a kind of a pattern in a couple of games. Especially like late in the game, in those particular games. So there were penalties, pre-snap penalties. They were giving up plenty of sacks in previous weeks, especially last week. And so this week they kind of cleaned it up. Only one sack this time, but not as much penalties and not as much crucial errors in crucial situations committed by the offensive line. So kudos for them for trying to like really just clean up just improving up on their play a little bit. Now it did get a little rough in the beginning, but like I said, they turned it around within the game. Jacksonville was just coming with that pressure, and they just found ways to uh, turn that around. Um, Texans didn't just win a game, but they won a close game, and it was an ugly game. And so that right there is really, really important because they've been in close games this season. Hell, they've been in blowouts this season, and they still let them go. You get to harken back all the way to Week 1 against the Colts. You know what I'm saying? That was a blowout and a close game in and of itself. But what I'm saying, they just wasted their chances in the fourth quarter and in overtime to really punch in and get that win. But this particular game right here, you saw him play a complete game, or you saw him play a close game, and it was just them being competitive from start to finish. And so with that, it segues to my third point. My third observation is that they played a complete game. The theme in a lot of these games this season, they have not came out and just played with a competitive energy. They've been kind of lethargic, lackadaisical, whatever you want to call it. But it has not. It did not look like any effort was put into their start for any of these games. So now they actually played um, a, a complete game, complete competitive game. And you know what? Sometimes that's what rivalries will do. These days and these days and age, or whatever, these present times. So yeah, these present times, the division rivalries kind of seem obsolete, especially with teams switching. I mean, excuse me, especially with players switching teams back and forth like all the time. So somebody could end up, in another team in the conference, yada yada yada, all that other stuff. Um, so yeah, just to see like these two teams still clash, still want to uh, get after each other in that game. I think it's great, for the league. Um, you know what I'm saying? But I also think it's great for the Texans because they get that they, what I'm saying, they're feeding off that competitive energy from their opponent, and they're playing to the level of that competitive energy. So, yeah, definitely this win was an ugly win, just like our season has been ugly for the most part. So, kudos to the Texans on getting that first win. Now, I want to go ahead and do a little review on our season. Yeah, it's been some bad times, a lot of bad times, of course. But you know what? There's been some good times. If you just really really look for them. First, I'll just get the bad stuff out the way. So we can end towards a positive note. And so the bad stuff, is kind of the obvious. With me, it's been the late game failures. So I mentioned the Indianapolis Colts game from Week 1. My other example is the Chicago Bears game when Mills threw that interception, and they were about to march down the field, and well, it set up the game-winning field goal basically for the Bears. Um, so things like that, and in that Colts game, I was, that's kind of where all these like pre-snap penalty started, just in the fourth quarter. Like you don't make that penalty in that situation. You know what I'm saying? So just having the chance to win the game or tie the game up or whatever, and just blowing it on things like that, that's just a bad deal, obviously. So yeah, the late game failures, that has been one of my ugh, that's been on top of my list of one of the things that has gone wrong for this season. A couple other things, and is just probably tying in both parties or whatever, but it's not living up to the hype. So Davis Mills, I'll start with him because that's probably the other obvious uh, pet peeve that the Texans fans have had, that he's not really lived up to the hype that's been put around him. In addition to the fans rooting for him for his case, the coaches and players have come out well and supported him like well before the season. You know, um, Lovey Smith even said like if he had a vote for team captain, I would vote Davis Mills. And you don't really say that about too many just random players that what I'm saying, you don't think is worth something, you know. So and look, he's a coach. He's not just a coach. Like he's a coach that's been around, some great talents. What I'm saying, he's done a lot in his career. Both on the college. He's done some good in the college ranks, but he's also done some wonderful things in the NFL ranks. So he's witnessed, different what I'm saying, personalities or whatever that have taken on that role of team captain. So I trust him as to know what exactly he's talking about as far as that goes. But that all goes to my point is like, they're it's all the hype that's around him that makes the fans think like, he's that guy. And even going back to last season, I've said like, he's won the starting job to enough to go into this year. You know what I'm saying? Like he's won the starting job for his sophomore year. As far as like going forward, it's it's really up in the air. And even though he's like starting all these games and all this other stuff, it doesn't. You know what I'm saying? It's probably easily like it's easy to just not commit to him going past this season. And so I think the rest of the year he'll likely be fighting for his future with this team, and he's a young quarterback, so I don't think he'll just get kicked out the league or something, or just fall off the face of the earth. Somebody's going to pick him up. He'll probably. I don't see him going to XFL, to be honest with you. Like I think he has potential, but he just has to live up to that potential. And part of that category of not living up to hype, I want to push that over to the coaching staff as well, particularly Pep Hamilton. Just as much as we talked about Davis Mills, a lot of people have wanted Pep Hamilton to kind of take on that offensive coordinator role as well. They listed his resume verbally that he's worked with Andrew Luck, Justin Herbert, what I'm saying? He was our quarterback coach last year. Now they wanted him to be like our offensive coordinator, but now that he's there, it's like he's he's almost like, well, we don't want. He's almost going to catch a hot seat. To be honest with you, it seems like it. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy because last year, Texans fans was kind of doing this with Tim Kelly, but been I I can remember when Tim Kelly was like, we need Tim Kelly, as our offensive coordinator. You know what I'm saying? Bring him up from, I believe he coached tight ends before, but bring him up from that and let him coach the offense or whatever. So after he soured out with us or vice versa, um, then it's on to like Pep Hamilton, bring him up and put him in there and see what's happening. And now it seems like it's a similar situation. So I'm not sure what it is, why the coaches, well, why we can't get an offensive coordinator to do something. Now, one thing that I did when I was listening to the broadcast um, on last Sunday, one thing that stood out to me that it was that excuse me, Hamilton said that you know Davis Mills didn't have a lot of experience, and said he didn't really say it in a like. manner to like take a shot at him. But to me, that stood out to me, um, because it was like I've always wondered, ever since the preseason, like why they haven't been aggressive with him as much. You know, you see all these stats about he does this in the red zone. He can has this many 200, 300 yard games or whatever, compared to all these rookies. But why haven't they utilized him like that? And that statement of Hamilton saying that Davis Mills doesn't have any experience, it stood out to me because it's like, maybe they don't trust him, what I'm saying, to do all the things that they really want to do. Because, I mean, Hamilton's worked with, like I mentioned, he's worked with Herbert. He's a gunslinger. Andrew Luck, what I'm saying, he was a gunslinger as well as a little bit of a scrambler, too. So, what I'm saying, why they're not doing that much with Mills? And, this is not to compare Davis Mills to Andrew Luck or Justin Herbert, which would kind of be absurd a little bit, but, well, not a little bit, a lot of bit, to be honest with you. But, yeah, you kind of wonder, like, I've always wondered, like, why they haven't done that. And me hearing him say that, that's like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense, as to why, they're probably coaching them the way they're coaching them. So that's my 2 cents on that, on those two guys, man. They're just not living up to that particular hype. But the good thing about them going forward is pretty much this. Um, there's improved the excuse me, I done skipped over the successes. But yeah, Davis Mills and the Pepper, and you know what? Let me get back on that. Not living up to the hype thing. I want to say coaching as well. You can't have these guys come out here playing lethargic, with no effort, no energy at all each week. They have to come out here and they have to. If this team really wants to grow, they have to come out here and just really put up a fight, coming out their locker room in the first quarter. Um, Successes. The young talent is emerging. Derek Stingley looks great. Petrie, he looks great out there. Damian Pierce, obviously, we can just go ahead and call him the best player on this team, right now. Um, he's had a big game, back to back big games, this season. Had his first 100 yard game, the previous week before. Almost had another 100 yard game, last Sunday. But he also scored the game winning touchdown. So he's really establishing himself as the best player, on this team. And so I think a lot of the young guys, I really like seeing them emerge. Even Kenyon Green, you know, he's he had that he had that bad game against the Chargers or whatever with all those penalties, but no, he's really stepping up, and he's part of that cleanup. He's part of that bounce back, effort, with the offensive line. So, um, successes. So, oh yeah, I'm on successes. My bad. So, yeah, the young talent is emerging, and also they got to win before the bye week. So, to me, they have something in place, where they can actually, go. They have a blueprint in place where they can actually go and build off of. So, previous weeks in the losses, I was like, they had some positives, even though they lost. You know what I'm saying? They had, they lost the game, but such and such did good here, such and such did good here. No, now they have something that'll show them like, hey, this is how we go out and win football games. It's simple as that. They needed this win, before the bye week. I'm glad they got it right before the bye week so they can rest up, but also mentally like take in everything that they did right to get this win. Because let's face it, the Jacksonville Jaguars, we don't know how their season's going to turn out, towards the end of the year. We don't know how much to expect of them. But when they entered that game Sunday against the Texans, they were already better than the Texans. Down record wise, whatever you want to call it. They just was better, and a lot of people were surprised, like, dang, this is Jacksonville, playing like this. And even then, within the game, you could see it. You could see the talent, out there with those guys, especially with the running backs. They were rotating their running backs at one point, trying to wear us down. ATN, Travis ATN, he was tearing us up out there a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, they're definitely something that's going to be they're definitely going to be something to deal with for a lot of teams going down the line. But but coming into that game, they were better than us. And the Texans, and I say that to say that the Texans stepped up and they met that challenge. Um, you know, they're they they was like, no, we're gonna win this game, and they did it on the road too. That's a that's a big mental gift for just for that's a huge mental win for a team that's young and rebuilding at this moment. So definitely huge win that they got before the bye week. So with that said, going forward, there has to be a lot of improvement. So improvement of the play calling. That's one. So I feel like Davis, we should be able to use Davis Mills a little bit more. We'll have to protect him way better than what we've been doing this early part of the season, but definitely, it's time to like kind of just trust him a little bit more. When Jacksonville was getting the pressure in his face, he was missing a couple throws, but he turned that around, and you know what I'm saying? He really just kind of, he really turned that around and just stepped that up. So definitely kudos to him for kind of just, you know what I'm saying, just standing in that pressure and just delivering the ball when it needed to be delivered. It's a lot more teams that's, they've probably seen that and they're like, they're going to take their chances on blitzing him and getting him routed up. So he just needs to be ready for that and just step up when it's time to step up. But definitely, I say that to say just, make the play calling a little bit more aggressive. Nico Collins, I want to see him step up a little bit more and become, what I'm saying, become this guy that everybody kind of wants him to be. Brandon Cooks, I was talking with a couple of my coworker friends, and they were talking about, how they had Brandon Cooks on their fantasy team and all this. And, they chose him because, he was getting 1,000-yard seasons with these other teams. And it's like, yeah, but look at the other quarterbacks he had. You know what I'm saying? So this year he got Davis Mills, which, what I'm saying, ain't exactly Drew Brees, ain't exactly Tom Brady. So, you know, he's just he Mills just has to play better, but Mills does have to play better, especially if they want to use him more in some more of these play call and some more aggressive play calling. Um, the younger talent going forward, they just have to start stepping into their potential, start reaching their full potential. You know what I'm saying? It's time to do that and get that going. Um, this is like they're good now for where they are. They're good as rookies and second year players, but it's time to really take that next step to become like professionals, like really stars for this team, and not just stars, but just solid players that can just go out there, do their job, and just execute properly. Because that's all it really is about. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you got stars and superstars. You know what I'm saying, that come in, they impact the game or whatever. But another impact and that another way that the game is impacted is by guys that are just kind of role players in a sense. So guys that are they're not household names, but they're going in and they're executing the play. You know what I'm saying? They're doing what they have to do. So that's all these young guys have to really do. Just kind of execute their plays um, and get things going. A guy we don't really talk about as much, I don't feel like, is Jonathan Owens. I think he still leads the league in tackling. I didn't check, but just hearing that, what I'm saying, now it's from the safety position, so you like, whatever. But defenses are so flexible these days. It's like, he could be, what I'm saying, like, lined up in the box or something like that, which he's probably not because the Texans ain't that good against the run, but that's neither here nor there. But the point I'm making is, he's an underrated player on this team, and what I'm saying, people don't really talk about him unless it's has to do with Simone Biles or whatever, like whatever the case may be. But so he's really proven to be a good player. Just not heard about as much as Petrie or Grugier Hill or Stingley or those other guys. So definitely looking forward to seeing what he'll do going for the rest of the season. And as far as like just the team overall, it's like week 6 is it's kind of early, considering that the games are all like since it's all like 17 games now. So after this, Texans gonna have they're gonna have a pretty competitive pathway. So they'll open up with the Raiders, who they having their own little struggles or whatever. But then they'll open up with the Titans, which that might be another game similar to Jacksonville. Um, then they got the Eagles. That's a tough one. Giants. That's another tough one. Commanders. That they might be able to pull that one out. Supposed to be. I'm about to watch this game right now. I saw some of it earlier. Wasn't too much happening, but after that's the Dolphins. But then they got the Browns and the Cowboys, and so the Browns and the Cowboys game. I before the season, I did a schedule review, and I was like, this is going to be the game where what I'm saying, they're really going to have to grow up. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think with the games before them, before those two games, games against the Raiders, Titans, the Giants, the Dolphins, teams that are a couple of those teams, they're really solid. But then there's also a couple of them that are like just kind of all over the place themselves. So it's going to be a mix of the Texans have a shot to win, or they got to really, really fight to win this game, or they don't have a shot at all. And that's right before the Browns game. And so that's supposed to be the first game that Deshaun Watson actually makes his season debut in. Supposed to be. He's been off for for the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. Um, and yeah, I don't think he's been at the facility or whatever. So ain't no telling how he's been training or whatever, or if it's to the level of what he's used to at an NFL facility. But by the time he gets back, that's gonna be like his first game action, and that's not going to be an easy game considering all the emotional energy in that. But then after that, we have the Cowboys. And so, well, we all know how Texans fans and Cowboys fans feel about each other in one shape or form, in some shape or form. So that's actually going to be a real emotional game as well, because even with Dallas, they had their own they had their own unique quarterback situation going on up there. So we'll definitely see how that goes for them. So but yeah, those two games, I think they'll definitely be uh you know they'll really bring out the emotional. They'll really grow the team up emotionally for that one. And so yeah, what was that? Okay. So yeah, but yeah, just to wrap up, man, it's been a tough season so far. We're only what the only done we've only done about 5 games or whatever. It's 6 weeks in, so um, I will. The only thing that we really have to, yeah, the only thing that we really have to do is just keep fighting. There's not a lot of expectations for us as far as playoffs. There's still some things that this team might need to fix, might need to address. Could be wide receiver, could be quarterback. You know what I'm saying? But those things they'll have to be addressed when they have to be addressed. So that's all I got for this week. If you're watching this on Facebook, facebook.com/BrandonBlog, hit me up, like that page. If you're watching this on YouTube, um, just go to YouTube. I really don't have a YouTube channel yet. I need y'all to watch this video 10,000 times so they can let me get my custom branding and I can create a URL for this. But yeah, if you clicked on the YouTube link, just hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm doing these each week throughout the season. So that's all I got for y'all today. I'm Brandon Simmons for BrandonSimmons.biz. Holla black.